Hello, welcome everyone. This is Monique Gallagher. Welcome to the webinar, Manifesting Your Intentions Fast, How to Unlock Your Mind's Secrets to Living an Awesome Life. If you've intended something and you haven't achieved it, it's not your fault. But here's the good news. You don't have to settle any longer for what your mind wants for you, what your conscious mind wants. You can learn unconscious empowerment language to set your sights higher and achieve your deeply desired intentions. Now, good news is this is part one of a two-part webinar because I realized there was so much content I wanted to share with you today that I wanted to split it over 2 weeks. So next Wednesday, please put in your schedule, same time, 12:30 Pacific time, for about an hour or so, and you'll have part two of the webinar. So let's go ahead and get started here. You have the right to live your life at a more profound level. You don't have to settle any longer for what you don't want. And I got to tell you, I'm so pleased you're here. I have been on a hiatus for the last 3 months, started working in earnestly a couple weeks ago, and boy, did I learn so much. One thing I discovered is that stopping what I was doing forced an awakening, in a sense, to what was most important. And I think that can happen when someone receives a shock, like they're told they have 3 months to live, and everything drops away and there's a focus and clarity that happens. Last fall, I went through a major life shock, and I was in such intense grieving. And I knew I was off center. I knew I wasn't grounded. I didn't want to make decisions from that place, what I wanted to do next. I wanted to reconnect with what I call my natural intelligence. So we'll be talking about that later in the webinar. We all have access to this part that knows what will bring us the greatest joy, contentment, fulfillment. Some people call it their higher selves, whatever we call it. It lives in our unconscious. And with some of the process you're going to learn about today and in the webinar next week, you're going to learn how you can get ready access to it. So it can help you at vital decision-making times and help you to manifest your intentions. So this natural intelligence guided me to stop all my known activities, and I resisted. Told me in November, and I really didn't stop until December, January. And it wanted me to do a restart. And I admit it was really hard at first not to work, to not check my email, to not focus on the next social media training or business growth method. But I allowed myself, gave myself permission to step off the treadmill and watch from the side. I watched from the side my own habits of distraction. And I had not realized how much I had used work as a distraction tool to take me out of feeling and being present. So after 6 weeks into my hiatus or so, I felt buoyant and once again connected with my natural intelligence. And it was at this point I was able to review how I wanted to share CT with the world. So this is the beginning of that process. You're going to get exposed to that today. So my first question is, what do you want to accomplish? You're not here merely to make a living. You're here in order to enable the world to live more, I would say, fully through you. So you operate with a greater vision, a finer spirit of hope and achievement, and all that is possible and more, even if you don't believe it is right now. Cybernetic Transposition, or CT, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail, what that is, has been an amazing tool for me to get out of living my life from my conscious mind and get more fully into feeling emotions and achieving in my life. I think a lot of schooling teaches us to make decisions with our head, and sometimes those decisions don't quite turn out as well as we'd like. We may set a goal or an intention, and we achieve it. It's like, is this all there is? Is this really what? This just doesn't feel so fulfilling. And I believe it because we're not congruent. We have a good idea, but all parts of our brain are not in alignment with that. We're going to talk more about that in just a minute. So for me, CT, cybernetic transposition, helped release the hurt. You know, we all have experienced pain and challenges and suffering living on the earth at this time. And it's also helped me achieve big objectives. And by the way, if you're brand new to CT, this is a great introduction to it. CT itself is not a philosophy or a teaching. It's a general self-empowerment tool that helps you communicate in language your unconscious understands what you desire, so you're letting it know what you want, and it helps you recognize and remove any blockers. We'll talk more about blockers in a minute. This invisible resistance that lives in your unconscious, which is preventing positive change, and it does so really in miraculous ways. So what we're going to be covering today, the truth about performance and what's possible for you to achieve. You'll have an experience of that. 2, what's really meaningful to you and how to guide your unconscious to create a more fulfilling and prosperous life. 3, why you've been struggling achieving your goals and how to reach nearly impossible goals. We'll do a lot more of that next in webinar number 2. We'll touch on it today. And then topic 4, how to create a peaceful mind and allow a secret ally that lives in your unconscious to help you do that. So a little bit more about me. I've got a passion about human growth and development, and I've been studying it for the past 35 years. I remember my first book, I think I was 13 or 14 years old. I've been working with and teaching Cybernetic Transposition. I'm licensed to teach it to groups, and I've been doing it privately for the past 9 years.
All attendees are muted and may unmute themselves by pressing *6.
I teach and sub for Stuart Lichtman, who's the developer of Cybernetic Transposition, when he's not available to teach his classes, and I help coach someone who is working with his programs who needs a little bit gentler, softer touch. I'm highly intuitive, and I use my psychic listening skills to figure out what a student is not getting so they can learn more quickly and help them uncover some blockers that may be currently invisible to them. Lastly, I seem to have an ability to help tune people to what it is they really want and support them in manifesting it. And this tuning people is way more profound than what I say right here, and you'll learn more, especially if you choose to work with me in an upcoming program. So let's move on to our first topic here. Topic 1, the truth about performance and what is possible for you to achieve. We all are born with a gift to create our life as we desire it to be. It's a fantastic gift, but there's also a downside, especially when most of us, when we think who we think we are, is powered by automated behaviors, habit patterns. And those habit patterns are great. They help us drive a car. They help us make a cup. They help us cook eggs. But sometimes, after painful first experiences, they get programmed in our unconscious before we have even any conscious awareness. So these thoughts and feelings that motivate our actions and actually motivate our emotions, really, they live in the unconscious mind. And what happens is that when you're faced with a potential of being hurt, a hurt perception, you're feeling, oh, someone stepped on my toes or someone didn't consider me. Well, your unconscious creates blockers. These are self-protective mechanisms that are automated to protect you from, hurt. But what can happen is these protective blockers can go into hyper alert. If you've ever reacted and a few minutes later you say, whoa, where did that come from? Or maybe you've watched somebody else do that. And you're thinking, almost like that's insane. That was such a strong reaction. Well, that's a sense. It gives you a taste of what some of these protective blockers can do to protect you. But here's the downside, and the scary truth really, is these blockers can cause us to shut down our creative forces, our manifesting forces, because more and more When we don't have a successful experience at something, that's like another tick. Protect her against that. Oh, another relationship that didn't go well. Protect her against that. Oh, another job and the boss took advantage. Protect her against that. So then when you go to enter into a new relationship or get a new job, all those protective mechanisms are on hyperdrive. And I'll tell you, some people feel them. They may not know what they are, but they could say, wow, I don't think she works well with others. She's not going to be a good team player. So you can find yourself not getting the job you want. Or you can find yourself going on a date and having a great time on a date, but then the person doesn't ask for a second date. They feel these protective blockers, this kind of againstness, and as though you've got your hands out and you're pushing what you are consciously saying you want, but in your unconscious you're pushing it away. Let's move on to how blockers work and how they steal your creativity. So as I started to talk about, when your unconscious decides what you should be protected against, it erodes your hope that it'll happen. It erodes the creativity, your manifesting power to make it happen. And so you start thinking after you've filled in the job application, oh, they're not going to call me. No, I'm not a good fit for them. Oh, I'm not even worthy for that salary. And you may be conscious of those thoughts or you may not. But I tell you what, your unconscious is operating under that directive. And you have no conscious choice. It just steals your manifesting power away from you. And blockers waste energy. You get so tired. Your enthusiasm drops and it freezes you, immobilizes you. And you feel like you're just burning, your candles at both ends and just pulling yourself apart, trying to get things done. So without the ability to put in new instructions in your unconscious as to what is a fit for you right now at your mature age, not your first heartbreak when you were 12 years old, the only possibility for your life is just repeat the past. Or you could use force and coercion to impart marginal change in your life. Talk yourself into going along with something until the blocker wakes up. And then you're right back where you started. So what are the roadblocks? Well, we're going to talk just about a few here, but there are many more, like deservedness, fear of success, fear of failure, and more. So first one, self-image is not congruent with your objective, what you're intending. 2, your unconscious and conscious mind hold contradictory intentions. We'll talk more about each one of these. 3, your unconscious has given up listening to your conscious desires, and it's gone AWOL. It's not listening to what you want. It's not helping you anymore. So what happens when your self-image is not congruent with your objective? So if you've decided that you want to get a job that's higher salary, but your last job was maybe 25% less than what you normally earn, well, that's what your unconscious says you're deserving to earn right now. So there's contradiction because that's reality, right? That's what you were making, and now you're projecting for a job that has more salary potential. Contradiction, conflict. And you can use conventional goal setting. We're going to talk a little bit about what I mean by that and how it falls short. You could use The Secret. You can use affirmation, visualizations all day long, and it will not happen if your unconscious is not on board and not in agreement with what you want to cause. So, what are the roadblocks to having what you want? It's not in your mind, and it's not in your thoughts. It's not in your conscious mind. The roadblock's deeper, much deeper. It's where you rarely look. It's in your unconscious. So your unconscious holds contradictory intentions for you. And if you're typical, like most people, you're actually giving yourself these contradictory instructions. You could say something, yeah, I want to make more money. So you make an application for a better paying job. Then right after you make the application, you say or think, maybe not even consciously are you aware of you're doing it, but you say, I don't deserve it. Or I don't want to work so hard. If I'm a manager, I'm going to have people under me. Ugh, I don't like that. So what's happening is those statements are going in two different directions. You're pulling yourself apart. And those statements, after years of frustrating and contradictory messages, your unconscious starts to give up and disregard what you consciously say you want. You cancel out your own requests. So as a result, you usually don't get what you say you want. We've all experienced it. So these contradictory instructions are like little voices in your head, you know? And they're talking, one saying this and another one saying this and another one saying, I can't hear anymore, stop. And they burn up your fuel and waste your time. And they keep you busy with the noise. So let's talk more about your unconscious giving up listening to your conscious desires. Your unconscious is communicating to you all the time. And when it gives you a communication like body feelings, or maybe an intuitive thought, you may have in the past ignored the message. We all have. And you went ahead with what you consciously wanted, whether it was good for you or not. Type in the chat bar here if you had an experience, if you had an intuitive knowing and you ignored it and you went ahead. Has anybody done that? You felt there's something like a pit in your stomach and you went ahead and did it and it didn't turn out as well as you'd like. Type the yes that you've had that experience in the chat bar here, because I don't think I'm the only one forcing myself with my mind. Yeah, I see someone saying yes. That's good. We've got some honesty here. Good. Yep. Yep, another one. Yep. So let yourself off the hook, because we're not trained to follow those body feelings or listen to them. We're trained to take a pill. You got a headache? Take a pill. What if that headache was actually communicating something to you? And you took a pill, headache went away. But it doesn't really go away. It just gets suppressed. And so the conscious mind here has started to devalue the messages. And this is an additional on top of that, okay? So you're devaluing the messages that the unconscious is giving you because, hey, this headache's trouble. I don't want a headache right now. I got to go to work. I'll take a pill. Those messages have been disregarded so often that the unconscious regards the conscious mind's request, like, oh, I want to do this, as noise, and it stops listening to it anymore. It's like two best friends that had the biggest, worst argument, and then they pretend like the other one doesn't even exist. They don't try to work it out. It's kind of like that. So this explains our lack of follow-through and lack of results. So because of this internal conflict and the lack or clear communication, most people have given up even setting goals. And if you look at the results of most people's New Year's resolutions, they just don't happen. There's not serious follow-through. So let's take a look at why this is the case. First, let's look at some common approaches to goal achievement, because this is a big deal. If you intend something and it doesn't happen, you get discouraged and you start being hard on yourself. So let's talk about what conventional goal achievement, what they teach us and what can happen. First, you force yourself to focus on what you want. You know, like feel the fear and do it anyway. And then, through strength of will, you exclude any thoughts or any behaviors that won't succeed. Now, we can do that for a little while, but eventually we get tired. And that's why we give up and we start eating the chocolate ice cream after dinner, because you're stressed. You want a little comfort. Second, common goal achievement programs, they say and suggest to create affirmations describing what you want to achieve and repeat it daily. Nothing wrong with that. But if you have programming in your unconscious that says you're not worthy of a loving, harmonious relationship, those affirmations will just bounce off like a trampoline. You'll say it and it bounces off. And then third, it teaches you to visualize what you want and keep focused on it without losing track. How easy is that? We'll talk more about how Cybernetic can show you how to do that and automate it so you don't have to keep conscious awareness. Now, these three categories of common goal achievement, as I said, there's nothing wrong with it, but they're missing a key piece. They have what engineers would call the necessary conditions, but not sufficient. And there's some truth in each one of them, but not enough. And what's different is that the cybernetic system includes the what's necessary and sufficient. And it focuses on the three aspects of what's required to achieve anything in a way that's clear and operationally effective. And we're going to talk in detail more what this is. But you create a target that all relevant parts of your brain agree on. You prioritize that target in a way that keeps you unconsciously focused on it, no matter what you're consciously doing. And three, you remove any unconscious roadblocks that would otherwise prevent achievement of the target. And we'll talk about more detail, each one of these in more detail in just a moment. So let me show you how to solve the problem and show how CT uniquely works with your unconscious, and it can help you in goal achievement. Here, I believe, is CT's secret weapon, the whole brain harmonizing. Whole brain harmonizing gets the four main parts of your brain communicating with each other and syncing. I like to think of it, this syncing aspect. If you have an iPhone, which I do, you plug it into your computer, and the computer's smart enough and knows that, oh, there's an iPhone plugged in, brings it up, and it allows you the function of syncing, copying everything that's on the iPhone into the computer and vice versa if you have it set up that way. So if you think about your phone and your desktop in a sense, it's kind of little mini brains. Let's look at this analogy here. So if you're talking about these four main parts of your brain, and again, this is really an analogy here, and it's not really describing fully in detail medically, okay? It's an easy way to understand CT. So you've got the left brain that manages words and logic. You've got the right brain, which manages patterns, observes patterns, and tracks symbols, keeps track of symbols. You've got the midbrain that manages your emotional state, turns up emotions, turns it down. And you've got the brain stem, physical stimulation. Now, when all four parts are in sync, well, that's wonderful. And they have the same agenda for you. They know what you consciously want, and they're working on your behalf. Well, then you start manifesting your intentions. Your objectives start happening. But really, this is what usually happens. There's conflict. There's disharmony. The left brain wants something, the right brain wants something else, or maybe the emotions want something, like they want that chocolate ice cream after dinner. But the left brain is saying, hey, I want to be able to fit in my bathing suit this summer. I'm tired of my chubby-wubby belly. They're fighting. And most goal-setting systems that I know of don't know how to get them all working on your behalf, looking in the same direction and working on the same agenda. Cybernetic Transposition does this, and it can bring you such results. It can take your breath away, and you'll start saying, wow, that was easy. So more detail on what makes CT different from other approaches. Well, it focuses on these three aspects of what's required really to achieve anything. Create a target that all of the relevant parts of your brain agree on. So let's go back to this one. Remember these relevant parts, the left brain, the words, like that sounds like a great idea, I want to do that. The right brain, patterns and symbols, yeah, that fits with the rest of my life, great. The midbrain, emotions, oh, that would feel so great. And the brainstem, the physical stimulation, what you're feeling in your body, kinesthetically, there's congruence. Let's go back here. So you're creating a target with all relevant parts of your brain online in agreement. And you prioritize that target in a way that keeps you unconsciously focused on it no matter what you're consciously doing. And 3, you remove any unconscious roadblocks that otherwise would prevent you from achieving it. Now, while all that sounds great, it's not so easy to do if you're trying to do it with your conscious mind only. Another thing that makes CT different is that it shows you how to transpose a success in one area of your life into another area of your life that you wish to succeed in. So say, for example, there's a stay-at-home mother, and she's got 8 children, and she's really good getting the children ready for school in the morning, getting them harmoniously agreeing to, what they're going to do on the weekend. And she creates like this peaceful harmony, and she just does it automatically, just right in the background. She doesn't know how she does it, but she's good at it. Well, she can transpose that success of getting her 8 children aligned and harmonious to working and managing a team in a business realm. Say she's looking for a job and she wants to run a sales division because she's really good at motivating people. With CT, you can take that success in one area, like being a really great, harmonious, loving mother, transfer it into motivating and managing a sales team. Another way that makes CT unique and different is you can achieve nearly impossible goals. Now, my definition of a nearly impossible goal, I'm going to give an example of it. I'd like you to start thinking about what would be a nearly impossible goal for you, and start recording that in the chat bar right here. Because as you engage your conscious mind and the kinesthetic part of you typing in, you are more fully aware, alert, and active. And a lot more can happen for you. So consider that as I described to you a definition of a nearly impossible goal that's actually happened to me. It was early last year, and I had this fleeting thought. Hey, I think I want to learn to meditate. It could help reduce some stress and pressure. Meditating might be good. But then I had no idea how you do that. Did you get a CD? What do you do? So I let it go. Didn't think anything more about it. About a month later, I was invited to attend a women's-only networking group where Deepak Chopra was speaking. I'd never read anything by him, never really heard of him, just his name. So I was a bit curious and said, yeah, I'll go. And I went to the luncheon. Well, as he came to speak, the first words out of his mouth were, my center in Carlsbad is hosting a study on meditation, and they're looking for participants. If you don't currently meditate, and you're a non-smoker, and you're in your ages of 35 to 60 years old, and you're a woman, you can apply. So I got excited. I wrote down the website. I thought, this is interesting. So I immediately went home to apply, and I discovered it included an entire week's stay with meals in the luxury accommodation at the La Costa Spa and Resort here. It's a 5-star property, golf course, beautiful, beautiful pools, really lovely rooms. I'd never stayed there. I had gone there for lunch. I thought, wow, this is amazing. So I really started to get excited now. And then I said, wow, Eckhart Tolle's going to be speaking there. Oh, I really wanted to go now because Eckhart Tolle was on my wish list to meet one day. So I received a call back from the research university and answered some questions, went through an interview process, and I had already purchased the seat to watch Tolle, a ticket. And then I found out they're separating the two groups. One into a control, means they don't meditate and they don't get to see Tolle. And the other group sorry, the other group is control. They just get a lovely week holiday. They get to stay at the pool. They get lovely meals, and they get to some, extracurricular activities. But the big deal is they don't get to meditate, and they don't get to see Tole. And I'm like, whoa, I'm not on for that. But immediately something in my unconscious said, if you will get it, go ahead and say you want to do the research. And when I commit my word to something, I'm going to follow through. So that would have been really sad if I couldn't do that. But I said, okay, I'll do it. And I put the phone down, I let it go. A week later, I get an email and said, Monique, we're pleased to announce you've been selected for the meditation group and you will be seeing Eckhart Tolle. And I'm going, yes. Now, that, my friends, is what I would define as a nearly impossible objective. To be able to learn meditation from the world's leading expert, Deepak Chopra. I didn't know that at the time, but he is. And to hear Eckhart Tolle speak. That event was life-changing for me. And had I asked my unconscious on how to learn to meditate, which I did, I had asked it, and it caused a 5-star full expense paid vacation, a training that usually costs $2,500 and much more. So now I'd like you to write in the chat bar a nearly impossible goal that you may have even started to give up on, or something that's present and you'd really like to do it. So type in the chat bar, and who's going to be first here? The audience participation here. What's something you'd like to achieve? What's important to you? I'll continue while you do that. So let's move on to topic 2. Discover what congruence and harmony between the conscious mind and the unconscious feels like. We're going to be doing a quick exercise in just a few minutes, but I want to give you a little bit of background here. When we're stuck in our thinking mind, or maybe we're emotionally stressed, or physically in pain, it's really hard to focus on anything but the pain if you've been in pain. It's hard to hear the subtle messages of the unconscious, those subtle intuitions, those subtle knowings. So we're going to do a grounding process to get you present and calm in the body so you feel refreshed, centered, and uplifted. It'll only take a couple of minutes. So I'd like you to get yourself into a place where you can relax and gently close your eyes and place your feet on the floor, and you'll follow my words. Great. Thank you, Anna, for posting that. A full-time income from your art, wonderful. Achieving higher sales goals, Bill, wonderful. Kevin, a 6-figure income at a career I love, wonderful. Absolutely possible, all of those. Before we do the exercise, I want to give you an experience of what inner conflict and lack of harmony feels like. Because once you're grounded and feeling good, I want you to stay there, okay? So remember back to a frustrating day at work. Maybe your computer crashed, your appointment canceled, and you really needed to close that deal. Oh, and then you get a headache on top of it. And on the drive home, you're sitting in traffic. And then you finally get home. You're ready to relax. You walk in, and your spouse comes up and says, honey, did you remember to get the milk? And you are just about to explode. How would you react? I'd like you to close your eyes now and remember back to your own stressful workday. Maybe it was today. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. What body feelings, thoughts, or emotions were you having as you think of your own personal memory? And it's okay if you don't remember your body feelings. That's a little bit hard to do, and we work on that in the training. But you probably can bring your emotional reaction up. Now, those are communications from your unconscious mind. And with Cybernetic Transposition, you can learn to use those as very important clues to what's going on and how to get you into right action and how to clear the blockers so that you don't maybe kick the dog when you walk in right when your spouse says, honey, did you get the milk? You're able to stay present and focused and say, oh, thank God I'm home now and that day is over, and let your day go. Wouldn't that be great to do that? So lack of congruence in how it feels in your body. As I was mentioning, it's essential for your conscious mind and unconscious to be in harmony and agreement for what you want to manifest, what intentions and goals you want to create. So now I'd like you to think back to a goal that you did achieve. I'd like you to feel the harmony and peace. Like I'll think about that time where I got to learn meditation. And I find myself taking this deep breath, just like when I do yoga. And I get really present, like, oh, that was good. Great. Now from that peaceful place, I'd like you to make a list of changes you wish to make in your life. And I'll give you a few minutes to do that. So I'll pause right now and I won't say a word. Grab that paper. Maybe it's clean out the garage. Maybe it's get a better paying job. Maybe it's, I don't know, stop drinking coffee. Whatever it is, big and small. Make a list of those changes. Keep writing. I'd like to have a few there at least. Now as you scan through your list, are there any thoughts or feelings that come up? And this takes some awareness to be able to sense it. It's okay if you're not able to, that's fine. Okay. Now we're going to do the grounding process. Now, why I recommend doing the grounding process, a little bit of noise from the blinds, I shut the window, is that it enables you to get more peaceful in your body, calmed, centered, and relaxed. And that's when we're in the best place to hear those subtle messages from the unconscious. So let's do that now. Notice your feet flat on the floor. Sit in a comfortable place. Close your eyes. And imagine that you can take a deep breath in of peace and calming energy. And exhale out any rushing from your earlier part of your day. Get rid of all those thoughts. Good. Now imagine you can take a deep breath in of tranquility. Maybe picture a beautiful nature scene. You're at the ocean or you're on a mountaintop. Breathe in that high quality air. Imagine you're there. Close your eyes and really feel it. Take a deep breath in. Exhale out. Even the earlier part of this webinar, be really present. Now we're going to do a little imaginary experience. We're going to ground ourselves into the soil of the earth below. So I'd like you to imagine out of the bottom of your feet that you have a root. You have two roots coming out of each foot. And that as you follow one of those roots, as it grows deeper, 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 and it goes to the center of the earth. I'd like you to imagine that you can plant one of those roots in that circle of light. Imagine that it grounds you. Imagine that it takes any tension or resistance or any fretting that you're holding in your mind or in your body. Allow it to flow down, 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 out your feet into the soil of the earth below. You might even feel your feet tingling as it does so. Good. Now I'd like you to focus on the area around your heart. Keep your eyes closed. And I'd like you to imagine that you can ask this question and an answer will come back. It could come back in this form of a vision or words or just kind of an intuitive feeling. I usually just get intuitive feelings. I don't really see full-on visions. So I'd like you to focus on the area around your heart and ask for a memory, a time where you felt relaxed, content, fulfilled, satisfied, and on track. And take whatever comes up. Usually is pretty fast if something's going to come up. If nothing comes up, that's fine too. It just means that you're holding a little bit more stress, and that's fine. We're all in that place at one point or another. If you did get something, I'd like you to rate it. And what I mean by rate it is on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being really desirable, fulfilling, there's nothing more that you would want. Now, if you got a 10 or close to a 10, that memory was likely a memory where your natural intelligence was present and guiding you. And I'd like you to write that memory down. You don't have to write a lot down, just a sentence or two to remind you, because that could be a very powerful and useful memory in the future to tune you to really what's right for you. What's important for you. Does anybody need more time? You can type in the chat bar if you need a little bit more time. Okay. So what congruence and harmony feels like? Well, you probably just had it, right? If a memory came up, or right now you can remember back to a perfect vacation or holiday. Or maybe you're spending time with a loved one, someone you could just really deeply relax with, no guards up, and just be yourself. This is an example of congruence and harmony between your conscious mind and unconscious. You may have thought it was just having a good day. No, it's a living example of it. Congruence. You wanted to be there, you're doing exactly what you wanted to be doing. And that's when that part I'm speaking about that lives in your unconscious, your natural intelligence, can most easily guide you and give you action items and start to help manifest what you want, because that natural intelligence lives in your unconscious. So let's move on to topic 3 here. The reason why you haven't succeeded at your deeply desirable objectives. Well, we're trained into wishing for what we want, and we think it's going to happen. And we're not trained how to set unconscious targets. People don't know how to do that. And your unconscious mind has stopped trusting you enough to follow new commands. It's like I was speaking about before, that you have this idea of something you want to do, and then you force your body, you force your mind to go along. And maybe you exhaust yourself, you hurt yourself. Your unconscious mind's not going to be so happy with you. And so it's not going to be cooperative when you say you want it to do something, because you abuse it. Another reason is that if you're not bringing that natural intelligence to have a seat at the table of your decision making, what you want to achieve, and you've been ignoring it or suppressing its voice over what you think is right for you, what would make you feel successful, well, you're breaking down trust more and more and more. And when you look back, you might remember when you were achieving and had feelings of this powerful can-do. We've got that when we're younger. We believe anything's possible. We've got a lot of life force, and we can power through it, override that gentle part of us, our natural intelligence. But over time, as we age, it catches up with us. At some point in our life, we can't force ourselves anymore. And we start to get these feelings, I don't want to go to work. I'm not really happy in my relationship. I don't like where I'm living, and on and on. And this general malaise or dissatisfaction with life increases. Enthusiasm to do anything vanishes. And some people might even say, well, I'm kind of feeling down today or depressed. I'd say you're feeling suppressed. And a part of you is suppressing your natural intelligence. A part of you is suppressing your unconscious and allowing that what's right for you to come to the surface that would bring you greatest joy and fulfillment. And I remember when I started to stop forcing myself, my egoic mind, from allowing it direct control over my life. And that's when I noticed that the egoic mind, when we are forcing, it's made up of many, many blockers, and its main purpose is to keep us in fear, keep us in conflict, not only with ourselves but everybody else, and generally waste our life force. It can make the most meaningless things important. We're arguing just to argue. Keeps us away from what is important and keeps us away from accomplishing our objectives. So would you like to know more about how I use CT to disconnect from this blocker minefield and how to create inner peacefulness and outer productivity? Well, you're going to want to get on the webinar next week then, part 2, because I'm going to go into a lot more detail about what we do in the full 17-week program. So let's talk about this, the difference between setting targets and wishing. I know none of us want to say we're wishing for something to happen, but most of the time that's what we are doing. So here's some examples of wishes: to be debt-free. My goal is to get more money fast. My goal is to have Donald Trump owing me money. Well, those might be called goals, but chances are high that the person saying them will never achieve them because they simply aren't good targets. Your unconscious doesn't know what that means. There's no working model in there. It's a wish. And no one, until this point, explained the inner workings of the human mind and how to target objectives, quite like CT does. So now we're going to get into the meat of the webinar. The CT 3-step system to manifesting your intentions. So first, to create a target. Now this target has to define what you want in great 3D detail, and that it's clearly understood by, remember, all 4 parts of your brain. And you do that by speaking in language that your unconscious understands. To give you an example of it, think of the bullseye of an archery target with its concentric circles enclosing a central red circle, or yellow circle in this case. Your unconscious mind needs something as clear as that circle, a target that indicates exactly what you want, no variation. Yellow circle, it knows what you're going for. And then next, second step, you establish direct access to your unconscious so you can effectively prioritize your target. What you do is you flag it. You make it a high priority so that your unconscious stays focused on it while you will go about normal day-to-day activities. So imagine a large crowd of people. They're all carrying umbrellas, and there's one person carrying a red umbrella. Now, it's like that highly graphic bullseye target with see the red umbrella there. And chances are that red umbrella catches your eyes. Well, that's what happens in your unconscious mind, too. It catches your eye and keeps you focused on it. The unconscious focused on it, so you don't have to. You can go to work, you can cook dinner, you can wash dishes, you can drive a car, but all the while your unconscious is trying to figure out how to make your dream come true, like what happened with me when I wanted to learn meditation. That month that it was preparing to give me the information to move forward and apply to participate in that study. Amazing. But I just communicated I wanted to learn to meditate, and it did all the rest. And it was way, way bigger than I could even imagined. Now, in the past, before CT, I will admit, I probably would have gone to the bookstore, and I would have bought a CD or I would have bought a book, and I would have tried to do it, likely got frustrated, threw it away, and say meditation's too hard, I can't do it. And by the way, when I did learn meditation, I'm such an active person, anybody knows me, I'm constantly moving, that I thought there's no way I could sit and meditate. After 3 minutes, I'll be crawling and leaping out of my skin. The first meditation that they guided us into, I sat there for a full, 25 minutes, and I could not believe that I could do it. Now, I think it was because of the CT work that I was so calm and peaceful. I didn't have the raging thoughts, I used to have. So it could even help you in meditation. Let's move on to step 3 here. Resolve any self-defeating unconscious habit patterns so the path to success is clear. Now, self-defeating habit patterns can really block you. They can prevent you from achieving your target. And this is what happens when someone decides to change. These habit patterns say, nope, you're not going to change. You're going to do things in the same way you've always done it before. It works. Why change something that isn't broken? And these unconscious habits govern what you normally do in a situation. And it's a really efficient way to go through life, to put a lot of things on autopilot, except when those automatic habit patterns get in the way. And most people have these unconscious mechanisms that literally are sabotaging their desire to hit the target. And when you clear them, which, by the way, where you're going to actually experience a clearing process, resolve one of the blocker patterns next week in part 2. So when you clear some of these blockers, you're free to hit the target. Your path is clear like the railroad tracks here. And some of the side effects of clearing blockers is you're connected to a greater sense of peacefulness, love, connection with others, and you're releasing sabotaging patterns. So you achieve your goals in faster time. Like me, I didn't actually even set a goal on the meditation. I just asked my unconscious, and my unconscious went about and did it. So here's a wonderful success, and I want to share this with you because I just received it in email like a week ago. Working with CT brings you increasing successful results over time. This is a story by Ralph Evans, and I'd worked with Ralph way back in 2011, and I was so pleased when he sent this email. He set an objective in 2011 to bid on a scope of work that would, he said, net me at least $20,000 in the next 60 days immediately after the bid was accepted. So his start date was October 1st, 2011. The endpoint date was November 1st, 2011. Nothing happened, so he put away his objective setting form and didn't think anything of it. Well, fast forward 2 years later, he was saying he was going through a lot of his papers, CT business stuff, and clearing things out, and he read the objective. And he realized that in the month that he was doing the exercises, he actually did initiate a bid on a new product, which is something that he usually doesn't do. And looking back, it was 6 months until the customer began to order the products. And in over a 2-year period, he netted almost $50,000 on this new product. So this is to say it doesn't take you that long usually to achieve your target, but don't give up if you haven't achieved it now. With CT, it will happen. It will unfold in its right timing. It's likely that had Ralph gone through the full 17-week program because he stopped, it's likely it would have happened on his time frame. But I'm happy anyway that it did for him, and that it increasingly brings you more successful results over time. So our last topic here. Create peace of mind and allow a secret ally, which lives in your unconscious, to help you. I'd like you to record on paper, which I asked you to do a little bit earlier, but now do a little bit more, some of the changes you'd like to make in your life. Maybe you became inspired by the webinar, and maybe you're filled with hope, and you're starting to think, well, this could be possible for me. Great. Okay, and now I'd like you to do a litmus test, and that does not mean lot a litmus test. Do a litmus test. Let me explain that to you. Remember back to when I guided you to that grounding process, and you were able to see a fulfilling memory of when you were really aligned with what you wanted and were doing what you wanted? Well, that's what I would call your secret ally. Your natural intelligence was present, and it's always there. It's always there in your unconscious, ready to help you achieve your objectives. Well, and it can confirm what's right for you to work on. So we're going to be asking this natural intelligence to look at your list and to assess the desirability. Are they really important for you to work on right now? Because your conscious mind might say, clean the garage is number one. And maybe this natural intelligence inside says, now have a heart-to-heart talk with your daughter. You've got some conflict there, and it's draining your energy, and you've really got to sort that out. And I'm going to want you to start to pay attention to that, because when you pay attention to that, the small things, the big things naturally unfold, almost guaranteed. So focus on the area around your heart, and I'd like you to get back that memory of when you felt really on track. And I'd like you to imagine that you have access to that natural intelligence that was present in that memory. And ask it to rate the desirability of all the items on your list. And this takes a little bit of trust. This is an intuitive knowing, okay? It's not a number. It's not going to pop up in your head. But it's more like, oh, that's a 5. Yeah, that's not so desirable. That's a 2. It's more just a natural kind of quick, just go through it real quick and write the numbers down. Rate the desirability of your to-do list, the changes you'd like to make in your life. And I'll be quiet while you do so. Okay. Now, if it takes you longer, you can do spend a little bit more time at the after the webinar. But I want to move us on to this next piece and honor your time so we can wrap up at the end of the hour. So number 4 is now ask that part of you to prioritize that list, that natural intelligence. What's number 1 to do? Number 2, number 3? That'll take a little bit more time. You'll have to do that one after the webinar. Now, if you are starting to feel anything in your body, when you start to think of cleaning the garage out, that's what I would call a blocker, a self-defeating unconscious habit pattern blocking you from something you want to do. And what I've discovered is when I connect in with this natural intelligence and I guide my clients to do so, there's an energy that comes with it to get those things done. Because you've got its support now. You've got the will to do it. And it fills you with optimism that it will happen and focus until you get it done. Now, if that focus is not there, we'd say you got a blocker running. And the good news is next week in webinar number 2, we're going to be talking more about how to recognize when a blocker is running, how to track it down, and how to clear it. Because the more that you can stay connected with that natural intelligence inside and follow its wise guidance, life is easier and you're achieving more of your objectives. And it's fun. It's fun. And wow, does it make a difference in your relationships? You're more natural and authentic to yourself. So let's move on to the last slide here. Are you excited now about CT and what it can do for you? So this page has not been made live and active till now. So I'd like to give you first access to the full Cybernetic Transposition system and a program that we're starting in May. So you can make note of this, and I'll put it in the chat bar too, so that you can go there in your own time. Okay, I may copy this and I'll put that in there. Okay, so it's right in the chat bar, so you can click on that and it will take you there. So lastly, as we wrap up, please join us next Wednesday, the webinar for the preview of HPT 16. So this is part 2, really. Put it in your calendar, please. And we're going to go into a lot more detail, and I'll be there on the phone to answer your questions and guide you through a blocker clearing process. So it's not a webinar you're going to want to miss. This could be transformational for you, and you can pick whatever blocker you want to work on to clear. So it's next Wednesday, May the 7th at 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific. It's probably going to run longer than today's because we're going to be doing a process, and I do hope you'll join me. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be on the webinar. I'll be posting it, and you'll be able to listen to it again if you had to miss parts of it. And please share this webinar. This is open for anyone who you think would benefit from learning how to get access to their unconscious so they can start to manifest their intentions fast. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.